Hey, what's going on? It's Stokely from South Sound Ole. Oh man, today was a different kind of day. I got a buddy. I guess I'm not really close with him. I don't know him like that. This guy, we're vibing online. You know, just chatting it up. We were commenting on. We were commenting on some stuff on the internet, and then he requested me, and then we were chatting maybe the past 2 weeks or so, just saying what's up. And the way how the conversation started is that there was a news article about children. No. There was a news article about marijuana. That marijuana has the potential to hurt people. And I agreed. I said, marijuana causes schizophrenia. He didn't take kindly to what I said and responded, well, he said, he was taking ecstasy since he was 14 years old. So he kind of diminished, or he kind of dispelled. He said, you know, it's nothing. He said marijuana is nothing. I've been taking ecstasy since I was 4 years old. 14 years old. I'm sorry, not 4 years old. 14 years old. So I responded and I asked him, you know, are you experiencing any kind of mental health issues? His response was, no, I got a job. Basically explaining that he has his life together. So anyhow, he requested me. I followed him back. I see that he's somewhat of an artist. He likes to do photography. He likes to take photographs and do stuff and all that. So I said to him, you know what, thanks for responding, man, and thanks for letting me know about all of that. You know, thanks for letting me know. Thanks for letting me know about, you know, responding so voluntarily to tell me that you're okay, despite using ecstasy at 4 years old. Anyhow, so eventually we're talking about life. He is asking me if my life is happy. I said, I don't really aspire to happiness. I aspire to stillness. I aspire to contentment, and I aspire to nirvana. I want to not want anything, and I'm paraphrasing now. I want to be in a position where I don't want anything. I want to be in a position where, you know, when things happen, I'm able to bounce and adapt. I'm able to adapt to whatever that situation is, you know, without losing myself, basically. So he said, you know what, he's read a lot of books on different religions. He's way more read than I am. Later on, he told me that he does, he's not happy. He's not happy. He feels like he's not accomplished. He feels like he needs a woman to share his life with. Which, you know, I spoke about this a little bit on Valentine's Day. I don't believe in that codependency stuff. I think you should be independent. Plus, if you're not happy, why are you getting into a relationship? That's not going to solve your problems. That's going to double your problems. Anyhow, he later on explained that sometimes he uses cocaine. So I have no familiarity or understanding of cocaine. It's not something that's really spoken of or observed in the black community, at least not where in the circles that I move. I don't know anybody personally that uses cocaine, and I've actually never seen it in real life. I don't know anything about it. So I said, I don't know anything about that, man. But, you don't want to have a dependency. You want to rely on your own faculties, So then today, he makes a post on his stories, and he's crying, and he says, I don't know what I'm going to do, man. I need help. I just quit my job. And he posted the picture of when he quit his job. So, I sent him a few messages. I said to him, hey, man, listen, man, hold your head up. Listen, you'll get over it, man. Don't worry about it. He's like, I'm going to lose my apartment, whatever, in the post. We didn't have a conversation because since I don't know him personally, I didn't reach out to him directly for my own safety. But I did look up the emergency mental health hotline for his area, and I sent him the phone number for the emergency health hotline in his area. And I asked him, I told him, man, it's not beneath you to ask for help, man, so do me a favor and call this number. He hasn't responded to any of my messages after he told me that he quit his job. But why am I imparting this story? Probably 3 weeks ago, he told me that he used ecstasy when he was 14 years old. Within 3 weeks, eventually just having not even any kind of deep conversation, because he doesn't know my name. In 3 weeks' time, I found out that he's actually depressed. He's going through a mental health crisis, and he's using cocaine. So, I'm not saying that in a condescending kind of way, because it can happen to any one of us. And I don't know his formative year experiences. I don't know what has happened to him. He didn't share that he had any specific trauma. He didn't share he had any specific trauma. I said to him, listen, man, just call your job back, tell him that you just need a break. Don't quit your job. But anyhow, I guess it got too much for him. Matter of fact, 2 weeks ago, he had told me that he had called out of work. So, I find people interesting, that's why I talk to people. I find people interesting, and I want to help people. Really, I do. I really do want to help people, but they really got to help themselves. And sometimes whatever's going on with them, they need professional help. So that's why I just gave him the number for the hotline, because I'm not prepared nor capable nor available to help him. I don't know him like that. And so what happened was I didn't hear from him after that. He hasn't responded. So that just happened today, but and I don't want to say I told you so, and I don't want to sound like I know everything or anything like that. I don't know what I'm doing. It's one case that rang true. I said marijuana causes schizophrenia. He said he used ecstasy since he's 14 years old. I said, has it resulted in mental illness? He said no. At that time, he said no. But at this time, we realized that he's still using psychotropic drugs. And he's actually having a mental health crisis, which is probably, in my opinion, brought on by the fact that his formative young brain was deformed, and I don't know what the word I want to call it. His formative brain, his young brain, which still had about another 9, matter of fact, another 11 years of development to do, because they say your brain don't stop developing until you're 25 years old. His brain still had another 11 years of development to go. And unfortunately, what I think happened is that his brain was damaged. There's a better word, but his brain was damaged by using those drugs in his formative years. Now, he was able to hold it together to the point where he has an apartment, he has a job, and all of that. He also said he hasn't dated in 6 years. Now I looked at the young man, because he's 10 years younger than I am. Doesn't seem like he would have any issue finding a young lady. I mean, you know, unless he like talks too much, or you know, I don't know, has a social anxiety issue, or has a you know, maybe he has some kind of other, you know. He also said he felt like he hurt people. So I don't know what that's about. That's one of the first things that he said. He felt like he hurt people. I don't know if he's hurting people because he disappointed them because he's off the wagon, or maybe he's using drugs. But matter of fact, I woke up this morning and I sent him a message. I said, or did I send him the message? I wanted to send him, either I sent him a message or I wanted to send him a message that, yo, you know, basically you need to get off of that cocaine, because I know somebody personally who lost their brother to an overdose. You know? And now the brother, the living brother, has to suffer having his brother die. You know what I'm saying? So, hey man, you know, I just told him, man, just, you know, just give it time, man. Call your job back, tell him that you just need a break. Give it time. Hold it together, you know what I mean? Sometimes you just need time. Don't worry about it. And this is why religion is important. Religion is important because it doesn't matter if it's a fantasy or if it's not even real. It just keeps you going. It keeps you going through the rough patches. And then when you bounce back on the upside, then you up. But when you're down, you have something to rely on. At least. If you don't have to be the most devout, praying to God all the time. Call on God when you're suffering then. That's probably good enough. That's good enough. He'll still try to help you. Matter of fact, it's your own mental suggestion coming back to help you. And if you believe that he's going to help you, then you'll be helped. We already know that the placebo effect works. Anyhow, stick a pin in that. That shows you that you need to keep your kids away from drugs and alcohol. Not only just the negative influences, the negative cartoons, the negative movies, and all of that. You got to protect their little minds. Protect their little minds until they're at least 25 years old. That's why, I mean, look at it right now. During the Obama's administration, they extended health care to your dependents up until about 24 years old. So even the government realized that people need guidance. You know, we think that we're grown from where, I don't know, 13, 14 years old. You got kids. Already early on during this podcast, I spoke about children who use drugs before the age of 18. What happens to them later on in life? I don't even remember the statistics right now, but it increases their probability of going to prison exponentially. It increases their probability of developing mental illness exponentially. So you got to protect their little minds from drugs, stimulants, chemical dependency of all kinds, whether it's food, whatever the case may be. You know, so yeah. Anyhow, I was doing some other research today. I spoke about it earlier this morning. I don't know if I published that, but I was looking into electromagnetic fields, and I started talking about that this morning in this morning's post. I was looking also into crystals and how crystals oscillate, and you can use crystals as filters in electrical circuits. The crystals that they use in electrical circuits are very thin because you need them to vibrate. You need them to also deform and expand and contract. And a large crystal, it wouldn't really work, because it has so much resistance in it. You wouldn't be able to allow the electrons to pass through it. Maybe if it's a high voltage. But and I was looking into copper also, and I found out that copper can be used as a non-toxic pesticide somewhat. If you put a circle of copper wool around your plants, it prevents slugs from climbing up on the plants. I didn't know that. So as soon as they make contact with it, I guess, they feel uncomfortable in some kind of way. And it keeps slugs off of your plants. Now, I think I haven't really spoke about contraception because it's not my place, really. But they have female contraception called IUDs. And they have IUDs that are made out of copper. And, it shows you how electric the body is. But sperm contains a significant amount of zinc. Also, when the sperm meets the egg, it has, there's a chemical reaction called a zinc spark. So there's a chemical and an electrical burst of energy when the sperm penetrates the egg. There's like a burst of energy, like a spark plug almost going off. So there's an electrical, charge and a conduction and all of that going on in that whole process. So when the sperm hits the copper IUD, its energy is zapped, basically, because that energy is now conducted and discharged almost like a grounding rod in like a grounding rod. That energy is dissipated now into the woman's body. That copper conductor allows the energy in the sperm to be zapped and dissipates into the woman's body before it gets to the fallopian tubes or into the uterus area. So we think about these things, we talk about these things, it sounds like magic, it sounds like mumbo jumbo, it sounds like foolishness. Religion sounds like foolishness, you know what I mean? But they say something in the Bible like, I forgot what they say, but they say even the smartest people can be tricked. Even the smartest people are going to think that the Bible makes no sense. Now, I'm not saying the Bible is the greatest thing or whatever, or the Quran or the Torah or the Talmud or whatever, the Buddhist units are. And, I'm not saying that they're perfect. I'm not saying these practices are perfect or these religions are perfect. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that there's some foundation in science regarding some of the things that are going on. Even when they talk about Big Bang Theory, you're born from a Big Bang Theory, basically. Big Bang Theory is when the sperm met the egg and you were gestated and you were conceived. Anyhow, so when does life begin? Does life begin at the zinc spark? So anyhow, now we're delving into something political and I'm not going to go any further. But, hey man, you got to protect your kids, protect their minds. I hope that this guy is okay. I hope that he calls that hotline number. Feel bad that I can't really jump out there and help him. But, maybe talking about this will help somebody. I don't know. Maybe it won't help anybody. Maybe they'll teach you that people are cold, and even if they hear that you need help, they're not going to help you. So don't harm yourself in the first place. Don't put yourself in a bad position so nobody will have to save you, because they won't. You understand? So build your network, build a good network of good people, and cultivate them and keep them safe and protect them. And hopefully they'll do the same for you, and put yourself in a good position so they don't have to put themselves out to come help you. And encourage them to be self-sufficient also. And then when you come together, it's good energy and everybody can have a good time, as much as possible. So hey, I don't really have much else to say. One thing though is I was listening to some videos about crystals, and it kind of felt like I was being I was being not blasphemous, but people like to use the derogatory terms when you're not falling into the typical A plus B edicts of whatever religion. They'll say it's haram, they'll say it's non-kosher, they'll say it's pagan, or whatever they'll want to say. They say you're infidel. They say, you're sinning, or it's demonic, or whatever the case may be. I think demonic according to Robert Prince, or is it Richard Prince? I think his name is Richard Prince. According to Richard Prince, demonic is when you're trying to control other people. I'm not trying to control anybody. I'm trying to understand my environment so I can operate in this environment and reach nirvana where I don't need anything from anybody and I can stay away from everybody. That's where I'm trying to reach. I'm not trying to control anybody. Control is demonic according to Richard Prince, who is like a mega pastor that adopted like 100 kids and went through Africa and all these poor areas preaching the gospel, which in my opinion, yes, that helps a little bit, but you could have just left the people with their religion, give them some factories, tell them to control their reproductive health, tell them to limit their numbers, because the more numbers you have, the more mouths you have to feed, the more suffering. Tell them to not get addicted to sex and fornication, and tell them not to use sex or drugs as a medication, because it just creates more entropy. It creates more disorder. You don't gotta necessarily teach them about Jesus. Let them believe in their Shintoism, their animism, or whatever. Give them some factories, give them some water. Statistically, as people get wealthier, they have less kids. So it's less kids suffering, and they can invest more into the smaller amount of kids that they have. Mitt Romney got 9 kids, but Mitt Romney's worth a few $100 million. He can invest a lot of money in each one of these kids. He can have a nanny for each one of them. He can send each one of them to Harvard University and pay the full bill if he wanted to. He could buy a whole wing at Harvard if he wanted and say, yo, my kids are going to that school. So, but most people can't do that. Most people have to use the public school system. Anyhow, I don't want to talk too much about that. But hey, man, yo, thanks for listening, man. There's so many things to learn and know in life. And when someone tells you that something is haram or something is non-kosher or something is pagan, it sometimes stunts your growth and stunts your ability to learn about these things. So learning that copper can stop slugs and that radio waves work a certain way and electricity works a certain way, it's kind of like you being like the Amish, which I admire the Amish. But the Amish try not to use electricity at all. I don't know if it's a spiritual thing. It is ultimately a spiritual thing. Everything is spiritual, right? But they're trying to make themselves stronger and be able to do everything without having to need the assistance of some other phenomenon. They don't have to worry about the power lines that cause cancer in their area because they don't use electricity. But the Amish ban those things. They forbid those things. They forbid the use of cars. They forbid the use of electricity, right? So you're forbidding me to learn about crystals. You're forbidding me to learn about maybe astrology. I'm not into the astrology thing. That's something that I kind of am still against. But what I'm realizing is that some people use things for good and some people use things for bad. Some people use things to control other people, which is demonic, and some people do things to manipulate and try to do whatever. But that's not the goal. That's not the goal. That's not my goal. We got to protect ourselves from those people. So we have to understand somewhat what perspective they're coming from so that we can protect ourselves against them, right? Maybe. Or we just focus on what we're doing and not give them any energy at all. And they probably have no energy. Because sometimes, one of the guys... I'm just freestyling now, so you can shut it off. I already said what I needed to say in the first 10 minutes of this podcast. So I'm just freestyling. I'm always freestyling. But... listening to this guy talking about crystals, and he's like a hippie guy, and he's explaining, listen, man, these crystals don't do anything, really. I mean, he's not saying they don't do anything, but the crystal is whatever I am. The crystal is whatever I want it to be. If I'm in this kind of mood, the crystal is gonna be that mood. If I say I want to do this and I have intention, it's gonna do that. So it didn't even need to be the crystal. I listened to Sadhguru, who was a yogi. He said the same thing. Listen, if you focus on this, you can put a stone in your pocket and say, yo, the stone does this. If you say it does it, then it does it. This goes back to the whole placebo effect that I'm always talking about. That works in almost 33% of the cases. We have the willpower in us already. We already have us in this. These little trinkets and these little, I don't want to call them idols because we don't pray to them. They're tools. These little tools that we're using, these medicines, they're all tools. These little tools that we're using, they'll do whatever we say they do. Whatever we believe they do it. For the most part. Not like a sprocket or an Allen key. An Allen key is an Allen key, and a Phillips screwdriver is a Phillips screwdriver. You can't say a Phillips screwdriver is an Allen key, okay? But I'm talking about on a spiritual energy level. I could say that this screwdriver is an antenna, and I'm going to connect to the universe using this screwdriver. And then I'll believe it. It's a fantastic thing. You know what I mean? It's something to motivate you and focus your energy, your mind. So, the epiphany that came to me while I was listening to these hippies talk, which I'm basically becoming a hippie now. The epiphany that came to me between looking at antennas, and they have something called a parabolic antenna. I don't know if you grew up in the 80s, you would have seen satellite dishes, or you ever seen a dish TV. A dish TV, the radius of that dish determines its focal point, and the focal point is where it's going to focus its energy, whether it's a receiver or a transmitter. So a parabolic antenna is what a satellite dish is. And a satellite dish, like for instance, they have a big satellite dish in Puerto Rico, and it's used to try to pick up signals from outer space. That satellite dish is very wide. I don't know, it's probably like half a mile wide. The reason why they had to make it half a mile wide is because the focal point where they're pointing it is very far away. So the radius has to be very big. So I'm thinking, and the place that I was reading it, is like, you ever seen those cartoons where the energy congregates in the dish and then the focal point and it shoots out like a beam? That's how parabolic antennas work. So I'm thinking about my skull, and I think my skull, the skull doesn't come, like the round part of your skull doesn't go the full extent all the way around. It's not round all the way around, but it has a round portion to it. And I'm thinking that the skull is a parabolic antenna, and your mouth is the focal point. So your mind is talking, but also the words that are coming out of your mouth are bouncing back off of your skull into your brain and throughout your whole skull when you're talking. So your mind, your skull is like a parabolic antenna. So whatever you say, you basically got to be careful what you say. Like people always say, you got to be careful what you say and speak positive, especially when you're talking out loud. So anyhow, that's just me being weird. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Just thinking about stuff, thinking about higher things, not low vibration things like anger, hate, lust. Stay away from those low vibration energies. We need those because those are the foundations of life anyway. Those protect life, those take life, unfortunately. But higher things, maybe we can help somebody. I hope that guy helps himself. Ultimately, he needs to help himself because he needs to control himself from taking drugs. Nobody else can make you stop taking drugs. Nobody else can't really convince you that if you're depressed, you're depressed. Nobody can convince you. They can try to give you some more drugs, but I don't think that's the solution. Hey, thanks for listening.